All right. Yeah. Hey guys. My name is Anjan. I'm a dev in web dev at Berkeley. I'm on the Clicked team, and I work on the backend side. So I'm going to be filling in today for the backend lecture. I'm just going to be just for today. It's a pretty short but also pretty cool lesson on the basics of Node.js using something called Npm, which is the Node Package Manager, and Express, which is what you use on the backend to create a server, which is really one of the main parts of having a backend component to your application. So I'm going to go ahead and start screen sharing. All right, hopefully you guys can see my screen. If not, hopefully it's not too big of a deal. And yeah, I'll just have my thing right there. Just gonna close some of my other tabs. Okay, cool. So you can follow along. Or attached to this video, it's gonna be a recorded video. Attached to it, I'll make sure that these slides are there, as well as this Notion page. This Notion page is probably the main component of today's lecture, so make sure you find it. You can just, if you head into WDB Home, Lessons, Backend, and then Node.js, NPM, and Express. That's what we're going to be covering. All right, so you guys probably have gone through the basic stack by now, and you've learned a bit of JavaScript. Specifically, you worked with like injecting your JavaScript into HTML and building a simple website that way. But you probably noticed that in order to have that JavaScript be able to run and be able to make your website interactive, you need to have this script tag. So some of you might be taking or have taken 61A, and you guys know how you can run if you write something in Python, like a Python file, you can run that off the bat in the terminal. And you might be wondering, how can you do that in JavaScript? Because being able to do that, we'll get to why it's important later, but just that's like a core component of running our backend. We don't want to always have to have all of our JavaScript code embedded inside of an HTML page. So that's why we're going to be using Node. Node is a JavaScript runtime engine, which is built on Chrome's V8 JavaScript engine. And like I was kind of alluding to before, it lets you run JavaScript without having a browser, without needing to have it in a script tag or anything like that. And yeah, there's a lot of powerful things you can do with that. You can manage local files. You can connect to a server, make database queries, and there's a lot more stuff you can do with it. And we're going to be really exploring it. So that's what Node is. Node is basically just JavaScript, a slightly different version of it that's intended for backend. NPM is the Node Package Manager. So in Python, for example, you might have heard of pip. That's how you install packages like NumPy or SciPy. And just like that, that's what NPM is for Node. It's a package manager. If you head to npmjs.com, there's a bunch of stuff you can check out. For example, if I was to search for Express, that's the package we're going to be using today. I can read about that package. I can check out the GitHub repository connected to it and whatnot. Another really cool package you might use at some point is Mongoose. This is especially when you're trying to connect to a database, specifically a MongoDB database. You'll probably end up using Mongoose, which is another package. So there's tons of packages, probably millions, and these are two of the biggest ones that you're going to encounter really soon. So heading back to here, yeah. So we'll dive into NPM pretty soon. But first things first, we're going to want to install Node. So I already have a Node installed on my computer, but it should be a pretty simple process to get it set up for you guys. I would recommend going with I have a Mac OS, which is why this shows up. If you have Windows or Linux, I'm pretty sure the correct version should show up for you. You should probably go with the recommended one, although if you want the one that's current. There might be some bugs, who knows, but you can also go ahead and get that. In fact, I think I do have the current one. I think I can go ahead and check. Yeah, I have 15.5.1, which is not exactly current, but it's pretty close to it. But yeah, so go ahead and just go through the installation process. I'll probably, I'll skip through that just because I already have it installed. Yeah. So once you have Node installed, this is where the fun part starts. What you're going to want to do is open up your terminal, and cd into whichever directory you want. Right now, I'm in my just lesson-1 directory. You can do it wherever you want. Might be a good idea to make a folder on your computer for web dev related stuff. Up to you. And once you're in whichever directory you want this project / lesson to be in, what you're going to do is type in npm init, and you can optionally specify -y. It's not required, but I'm gonna go ahead and do that. It just skips some of the setup process. It's not a huge deal. So once you're done with that, you're gonna notice that let me just move my stuff around. Yeah, you're gonna notice if you print out or if you list whatever's in your directory, it created this file called package.json. So if you want to check out what's in it, well, we can kind of see right here. It's just some basic metadata for this node, and basically it's for this npm, or for this folder. You can think of it like that. So I just because of the -y, I skipped through a lot of it, but you could, if you wanted to actually specify some of the things like author, maybe you could put your name, or you can change the name of the package. This is technically creating a package. You could change it to something other than lesson1. It's up to you. And yeah, so once you go ahead and go through that process, we're set up with our package.json. That is one of the most important files in whenever you're using Node. Having that package.json, and we're going to explore and see why that's so important. But let's get to the fun stuff. Let's actually write some JavaScript. I'm going to use VS Code in this lecture. So 1 second. Yeah, okay. So I'm just opening up this project in VS Code. And the first thing that I'm going to want to do, or actually I'm just going to hide this terminal for now. First thing I'm going to want to do is create a file called helloworld.js. You can call it whatever you want, really, but for now, that's what we'll be calling it. And let's just make sure that our project's set up correctly. Let's try just console.logging something. Hello world, maybe. That sounds pretty fitting. And yeah, now if I go, you can either do this in, I know VS Code has an integrated terminal, but I usually just use the actual terminal. Either one's fine. But so, like I said, the main goal of being able to use, or a main part of Node is you can run it directly from the terminal. You don't need to open up a Chrome or open up the HTML file. So I can just do node helloworld.js, and it runs, and it just prints this out in the terminal. So if I was to change this to hi world, run it again, cool. That's pretty nice. So make sure that that's working for you. And if it is, then you should be set up with your package.json, and you should be set up with your JavaScript file, obviously. So let's talk about a little bit more about the difference between JavaScript in the browser versus in Node.js. So first of all, whenever you're using JavaScript in the browser, you probably often have to use the document object. If you're doing document.getElementById, or trying to set the inner HTML for some specific tag, you often have that document object. For Node, that's not there because, like I said, you're not running it in the browser. I just ran it directly from my terminal right now. Usually this is going to be run on a backend server, so there's no document object. like I said, Node's a server-side language. So another cool thing about that is we can interact with our local file system. So later, probably at the end of this lesson, we're going to be creating a program that just auto-generates some file in our directory. So that's pretty cool. We can also set up a server. That's what Express is. We're going to talk about that very soon. And just I guess something else. There's like a fetch function that's in JS. There is no fetch function in Node. So for sending requests, you can use HTTP, or I think we're going to look into this later, a third-party package called Axios to send requests. Yeah. So we've talked a lot about NPM, right? It's a package manager. Let's actually install some packages. The first thing that I actually want to talk about before we even install Express is an introduction to it. Okay, that you guys weren't supposed to see that, but it's fine. So yeah, front-end app, like let's say we have a front-end and a back-end component. Let's say we try to put everything onto the front end, like all of the, first of all, the front end app, like website or app, whichever it is, they're busy rendering the UI, handling like UX logic, moving users from one screen to another, and etc. There's like a lot of stuff they're already doing, and we don't want to, on top of that, give them the app logic, querying the database, and potentially we might have some pretty like computationally intense like tasks that we need to run, and we don't want those to necessarily all be on the front end. So instead of that, we're going to have a backend. If any of you guys have watched Silicon Valley, this is my attempt at a joke, a reference to that. But yeah, our server is not going to necessarily look like the Huli box 3.0 or 2.0. We're going to be using Express. So our front-end apps will send an HTTP request to our server, which is built on Express using Node. And that's where we're going to handle all of this stuff. And once let's say we get some data, we do some number crunching, we figure out what we're supposed to like spit out from all of that input data, and then we respond. We send our HTTP response back to the front-end app. That's like the super, super basic architecture of what's going to be going on. So now that we know that, we can get started with installing Express. Actually, one more thing right before we do that is I recommend that you guys, another package that we should maybe install before is called Nodemon. So I'll kind of show you guys how useful it is, but we're going to install it globally. And what a global means is instead of just being able to use it in this project, we can use it pretty much anywhere else, and we don't need to keep reinstalling it. Pretty cool. So I'm going to do npm install -g Nodemon. I already have it installed, actually. Or actually, maybe I don't. I think I do. Yeah. And you guys can go ahead and do that as well. So what's cool about Nodemon is you're going to see instead of having to remember when we were doing the hello world and hi world, I had to run the program, like rerun it again. We don't need to do that anymore. So like let's say I to use it, you do nodemon hello world.js. So it's gonna run it. It printed out hi world because that's what we have right now. And now the cool thing is if I change it to hello world and I save, it's gonna rerun the entire program. And that's really it's like a really useful dev tool to have, just so you don't need to keep coming back to your terminal and closing your program and restarting it. Especially when we have a server running, it's really nice to have this. So yeah, that was just a quick side note. So yeah, let's go back to the Notion page and let's install Express. So I'm gonna actually close Nodemon and npm install Express. Cool. Okay, so once that's installed, you should now go to VS Code or your text editor, check package.json, and you should see in dependencies we have Express here. So what this 4.17.1 is indicating is that's just like the version of Express that we're going to be using. And I mean, you don't need to worry too much about like what this caret means. It's talking about can we take like a version higher or lower than that, etc. But what matters most is we have Express installed now. So once this is here, that's good, since you know it worked. And you'll also notice that there's this node modules packet folder. If you want, you can click on it. It just has a bunch of packages, basically, like the raw forms of that package. And you don't need to look into that too much, but I just want to mention why now this package.json is so nice. Basically, let's say you're working with another person and you're working on like the same project, and both of you, like your project has like, let's say it has like 10 different packages, and your node modules, let's say it's just full of there's like this is actually a pretty big folder, because it has a bunch of like it has a bunch of utility files. Yeah, there's like a lot of stuff here. So the cool thing about having this package.json is when you're pushing to GitHub, you don't need to push this node modules. In fact, you shouldn't. It's a pretty big folder, and it's like just like repetitive stuff. You don't really need it. Instead, you push your package.json, and when someone else downloads this project and they just have the package.json, they can convert it. They can get the node modules just by running npm install, which is pretty cool. I just wanted to mention why, like another reason why package.json is pretty nice. So yeah, sorry for going on a tangent there, but now let's actually get started with making our writing some more JavaScript. So we're going to do this const express equals require express. That's like one of the first lines we're going to have. So what this is doing, require express, is just a way of, it's like importing the package as you might do in Python, where you do like from blank, like import like that way. Here we use require, and in the slides, in the Google Slides, if you can look through there. If you have like a newer version of Node, there's actually other ways that you can import, which you might use in the future. I'm not going to go through it now, but feel free to take a look if you want. That's using something called ES6. So once we have this, we're going to do const app equals express. So this express is like a function. We're going to just call that function and get this app object. This app object is like the main part of express. It's how we're going to, you'll see, it's how we're going to have all of our API routes. And you'll learn more about routes, I think, in the next lesson, probably. This is just like a starter lesson. And we're also going to define a port. So you can define this to whatever you want. I think convention is to have it as 3000. I'll keep it at 3000, but you can make it 3001. You can make it like 5000. Yeah, I'll just keep it as 3000 for now. Yeah, and we're now going to copy, or you can write this too, but remember this is on the Notion page. You're just going to copy both of these. And now let's also figure out what this code is actually doing, right? So I mentioned this is for importing. The app is just to get like an app object from it, and then the port is just it's just defining some number. Now app.listen, this is an important line. This is essentially like, it's like starting your server. It's setting it up, and at this specific port 3000. That means if we head to this URL, localhost 3000, that's where our app lives, or our backend app, our Express app. That's pretty much what this app.listen is doing. It's pretty, this is not really going to change much between projects. It's usually going to be like this code, or I don't think you'd really need to change this up much. You'd probably just reuse it. Now, what does this do? app.get /rec res and then res.send. Okay, so like analyzing it piece by piece, app.get, so we're calling some .get like method almost on this, but what we're actually doing is we're setting up a route. So what's a route? It basically means this is our base URL. So we had this localhost colon 3000, or it's like HTTP localhost colon 3000. If we just go to localhost colon 3000 slash, and you don't really actually have to have the slash, it could just be localhost colon 3000, this route will get triggered. So whenever we go to that URL, it's like going to call this function basically, and it's going to pass in some information. This rec stands for request, res stands for response. So yeah, let's try running it, and you might get a better idea of how it's working. So I'm going to use Nodemon. Let me make sure my file is saved. It is. Nodemon hello world.js. Okay, and now if you just copy this link right here, and by the way, we are printing this out over here in app.listen. That's why this is printing out. You know, if we change this, if we change this to console.log hello again, hello for the first time since, oh man. If we were to do this, you know, it prints that out as well as this. But yeah, so now if we were to go to Chrome, just go to this link, hello world, cool. And because we're using Nodemon, let's say I change this to just set up my Express server, hashtag swag. You know, if we reload it, it changes. So this is our response. And we can tell it's our response because we're doing res. Remember, res stands for response. In fact, if you're in VS Code and probably in most other text editors, you know, you can hover over it and it'll tell you it's a response. And rec is a request. So we're doing res.send. So we're sending this as a response. It's just text. There's a lot of different things you can send as responses, but this is just one of them. Okay, so that means that our server is up, and it also means that this route is working. This slash route, it's good because that's pretty much where I went. I mean, I could type the slash, but like slash and nothing after it is basically just, you know, you can omit the slash, and just to like prove to you that's true, I can change this route. I can make it the route is like first or something like that, and now if I go to this slash first, it works. But if I go to this slash nothing, cannot get slash. So that's saying basically we have no route here. We have one at first, but we don't have one at anything else. So yeah, you can tell that that's good. And cool. So now, yeah, let's add some more routes. Let's spice things up a bit. Specifically, what we're going to do is, if you head over to this site real quick. Oh, I don't think I meant to do that. Yeah, so you go to, this is in the Notion page, but this is a NASA API. So if you just go to this and click enter, you're going to see just a wall of text. And if you look closely though, you'll notice this is, I'm not sure if you guys went over this in the basic stack, but this is something called Json Format. So it's basically just, JSON stands for JavaScript, I think, object notation. I'm pretty sure. And yeah, it's like you can kind of, if you've taken 61A, you might notice it looks like a dictionary, right? You have like a key here, copyright, then you have a colon, then you have its value, Donald Mitchell, date, colon, 2021, March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day, by the way. Yeah, so we're basically, this is the response that we're getting. So what we're going to try to do with our code is first let's see if we can somehow integrate that into what we're writing. So I kind of briefly mentioned this before. There's a package called Axios, which allows us to send requests to other APIs. So you might kind of understand now what's going on. Like first, we are sending a request to our Express server, and then our Express server is now sending a request to NASA servers. So you can like chain these on. It's pretty cool. But first things first, we got to install Axios. So let me cancel this, and npm install Axios. Awesome. Okay, we're going to import it into our code, just like we did for Express. Usually we put our imports at the top. That's just convention. I would recommend you do that. Otherwise, you will be seen as a social outcast. I'm joking. Yeah, and then let's also, how about you can copy this from the Notion page and we'll analyze it part by part. In fact, maybe we can, if you feel free to create another file. In fact, I think I might do that. NASA file.js. I'm going to copy all of the import, or actually you can honestly copy a lot of this over and we'll delete what we need to delete. So I'm going to delete this get first route. We're not going to really use that anymore. I'm going to remove this extra console.log. That's kind of annoying. But yeah, other than that, a lot of this is the same. And I'm just going to also move this the get route to up here. Okay, cool. So what are we doing here? We did app.get/NASA. So that's creating a route at localhost 3000/NASA. Same thing with the request and response. By the way, I don't know if I think I forgot to explain this before. In case you haven't seen this, this is called arrow. It's like you're basically just creating a function, but it's called I think arrow syntax. It's nothing too fancy, but basically this entire part, I think, yeah, till here. If I was to remove this, this is like a function. So you could alternatively you could write this as something like function my function, and you take in a request, you take in a response, and you're just gonna do this. It's the same exact thing. It's just it's the hip way to do it. It's also a bit faster. So yeah, we like to use that. Command Z. Okay. Yeah. So now that this is our function, and for what we're doing is Axios.get, and we're just passing in that URL that we had before. So this is going to be sending a GET request to this URL, and I think you guys are going to learn more about what a GET request specifically is and other types of requests. But don't worry too much about that for now. Basically, this is just sending a request to a different server. And as we know, this server gives us back this response. In fact, it's kind of cool. I think APOD is like astronomy picture of the day or something. So every day it changes. So if you were to run this every single day, I don't know why you would, but if you did, you would see this text changing. But yeah, what we're doing here is we're getting back whatever response we have here, and based on that, we're creating another arrow function inside, where now res.send response.data. So it's kind of like from our Express server, we just sent a request to the NASA server. That gives us back a response. Now from the Express server, we're sending whatever we just got, we're just sending exactly that back as a response again. So it's like we're sending the response twice, all the way from NASA to Express, then Express to our browser. And then .catch is just to handle any, if there's any errors. There probably shouldn't be, but it's always good to have some error handling in there as well. Yeah, so basically this is exactly what we're doing. We're doing axios.get, which sends a GET request to the URL. And now let's try running it. Oh, sorry. You should probably run Nodemon NASA file.js. So if I was to go to localhost 3000/NASA, I just get a copy of basically this, which is cool, but also, it's just a copy. But just to make sure it's working, if I go to NAS, nothing. So it has to be NASA. Cool. Okay. And before we jump into the next example, since we're almost getting to the end of this lesson, before we do that, maybe we can spice things up here. rather than just sending exactly whatever we get here and then just like sending it back, maybe we can modify the data somehow. So let's go to our JS file, and here's what we're gonna do. So at this point in the code, this is where we get the response from the NASA API, and now we're here. So let's see if we can do anything cool. The first thing we'll do is if we look at like the data that we're getting, we can get the let's see, we can get the date. Maybe that's the first thing we can do. The date is March 17th, 2021 here. So what we can do is const date. And how do we actually access it? Well, we can do response.data. Response.data we know is this entire thing. It's an object, right? So response.data, and we want specifically date. Date is the like key that we want. This is like, think of it like you're accessing not exactly a dictionary, because in dictionary, you do like a different syntax, but same kind of idea. It's like an object. So date response.data.date. Yeah, tongue twister. Not really. Okay. We can maybe get this. There's like a explanation here. Maybe we can do something with that. I'm just gonna call it, description or something, and that's response.data.explanation. Okay, and maybe finally we can get this. This is the actual URL. If we go to this URL, yeah, they just like have pictures of, I think this maybe from the Mars landing. No, wait, this is Venus. I'm stupid. But yeah, we can get the actual URL. Why don't we do that? So const URL equals response.data.url. Awesome. Okay, and now here's what we want. Maybe we can do something like, instead of showing all of this, let's like inject some HTML into here. I don't know how, you probably won't really do this much with an actual, like when it's an actual project. But we can also just like see how the response is actually getting sent back. So far, we're just sending like text, or we're sending this JSON, but it's in like text format. So maybe first thing we can do is, if you remember from HTML, there's the h1 tag. H1 is like a heading, right? It's like a big text. Maybe we can put the date in big text. So to do that, you might have actually, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but here we didn't use like an exact quote. We used I forgot what it's called. I remember in like 61A, I think it's called a quasi quote, but basically it's like a string, but you can have a variable inside. In this case, we had the port variable. Port is a variable, and we were just adding that to our string like that. So we're going to do something similar with this. Maybe we can surround this in those special quotes. I forgot what they're called. And let's put our date inside here. So to do that, you're going to put $, and then curly brackets, and just date is the name of our variable. Okay, so this is one thing that we want to send. Maybe we can just, actually, let's just do this. Move this response.data and just put that in there. Let's see if this itself works. So I'm still running on Nodemon, so it should be good. Cool. We see, at least as of now, it seems to be good. It's showing us the date. Maybe we can also show the description as a paragraph. So to do this, you're not going to do res.send again. In fact, if you tried this, you might see an error in the terminal that says you can't send stuff twice. I don't know what the exact error would be, but that's not how you do it. You don't want to send everything in the same response. So we can just I guess we can do adding these strings together. Maybe let's put like a break, just a line break, so that it doesn't it looks not that ugly. We can add another of those special quotes, and let's do a paragraph. So you guys have seen the paragraph tag, and here let's put the description. And finally, let's also add a link. So if you remember how to add a link, it's you have to use like the A tag and add an href, which is like the actual URL you want it to go to. So we can do that. And the href is here is where we want to put this. We'd want to put the URL, right? Because that's like the actual URL. And maybe we can call like the text that you see would be click here for a cool picture. Okay. Also, you might have noticed when I like saved my thing like formatted, that's just this this thing I have called prettier that just like cleans up my code. But yeah, so you don't worry if that's not happening for you. And now if I reload the page, cool. We see that, you know, we have this in the, this is a heading. There's a break here. We have a paragraph. I forgot to, I mean, I guess there's no break between here and this picture, but that's fine. And if we click, it leads us to the URL. So it seems to be actually working. That's pretty cool. Excuse the noise, sorry. Yeah, so our NASA file is working. And one last example, I mentioned that we can connect to the local file system. Let's actually try doing that and seeing if it works. So I'm going to create another file. I'll call it filecreator.js. Okay, and this one's going to be a bit different. So in the past two examples, we've had get requests. You know, like specifically, we haven't really passed in much information. We've just been getting back information. Let's try switching it up. Let's try doing something called a post request. Or actually, never mind. I guess that this one's also a get. Scratch that. We're going to be doing a get request again. You guys will probably learn about post requests later on. But here's what we want to do. We want to build an API where if we input the name, you know, here you see question mark name equals resume and a type of file. So here we have txt. The server just creates that file on our local system. That's pretty cool. And so this question mark, it indicates parameters. So name equals resume, that's one of the parameters. Type equals text, that's another. Think of it like a function in Java or in Python where you pass something in. Okay, so, and then once we do that, we go to that URL. Express needs to get that information out because right now it's stored in the URL. So we're going to use something called body parser. And yeah, it'll like allow us to do that. Let's just install body parser real quick. Body-parser, by the way. And we're just gonna, okay, real quick, I'm going to go to VS Code and copy all of this over. As you can see, there's a lot of copy paste involved in this, with this backend stack. But now that I've done that, I'm going to require body parser. Oops, wrong thing. And you know what? We're not using Axios anymore, so I'm going to remove that. Okay. Yeah. Sorry for like scrolling up and down. Hopefully, it's not too much. I'm going to copy in these two lines. So I'm just going to put that right over here. Okay. App.use body parser.url encoded. So you don't need to worry too much about what this means, but basically it's just saying, okay, our Express app is going to use this body parser package, specifically when stuff is URL encoded. That's the like official term for this, URL encoded information. And then we're also, another case where we might use it, we're probably not this time, but if we're given in some JSON information, and you guys will, I think, learn how to do that next lesson. But we have that good. We have that set up. That's good. Let's create another route. So I'm going to copy paste this. I'm going to get rid of my NASA route. I have /create. So that's the name of our route. And then from this request, we haven't seen this syntax yet, right? Request or rec.query.name. So that's essentially how you access URL encoded information when we're using body parser. You're going to do rec.query and then whatever it is. So let's say instead of name, let's say we had like monkey equals orangutan, we would do rec.query.monkey. So that should be pretty straightforward. We're doing the same thing for the type. So that's cool. And now we want to actually connect it to our file system. So we're going to use this package called fs. You don't need to install it actually. It's like it comes with Node. So that's cool. But just go ahead and do that up at the top. And now, here's what we're going to do. So first we want to create like the actual file name. So a file name, you know, if we have like hello and we have txt, oops, we just want to do, you know, hello.txt. So that's pretty straightforward. Let's do that. Let file name equals name plus just a dot plus type. Okay. And then we're going to use this. FS is like the file system. So we're going to do append file. So you don't need to worry too much about what exactly it's doing, but it's just basically creating a file. At this file name specifically in our directory. And this is the content inside of the file. So if I was to copy this in, I'm just going to copy it and paste it right here. fs.append file name, we have that, and we can put whatever stuff we want inside of here. You know, I might put, hi, this is my super duper cool resume. And if there's an error, it's like, it'll send an error. Otherwise, once we've done that, once we finish creating this file, we're going to send a response to us on the browser, right? And it'll just say, you know, message file created, name, type. So that's, you know, pretty basic. Cool. And just to make sure that it's working, let's go ahead and I'm going to open up WDB lessons, lesson 1. Yeah, so I don't have any, like I just have my actual project files here right now. So that's good. And if I try, I'm going to be running file creator. And if I go to this link right now, well, I got a successful message, so that probably means it worked. And cool, resume.txt just got created. If I open this up, hi, this is my super duper cool resume. Awesome. And you know what's pretty cool is you could put pretty much anything. You could put like .py. You could put I don't know, 61a.py, and you could even change the content inside of here. Actually, I don't know if this would. I think it should work. You can make it, you know, def. Or no, let's just do a lambda x plus 1 or something like that. Yeah. And if I was to run this, wait, resume 61a. Oops. This is .py. 61a. Yeah, okay. And if I go to here, 61a.py, and if I was to preview this, well, seems like it actually worked. That's cool. So you can pretty much create any file that you want, just like automatically. I mean, it's not the most like useful. You wouldn't actually probably use this, but it's just to show how versatile Node.js can be. You can do a lot of stuff with it, and this is just a few examples. So that's pretty much it for this lesson. If I can quickly add a couple of slides here. So yeah, this is, I mean, I like really briefly mentioned this before, but there's other ways to import packages. We're doing it with common JS style, and I think that's what you're going to be using in future lectures. So you don't really need to worry about this. But in the future, like after the semester, you might hear of something called ECMAScript 6 style, which is like the newer way of doing it. But yeah, you don't need to worry about it too much. And just here are some other cool packages that you might use throughout this semester and in the future. I spelled this wrong. This should be server. Yeah, we use Express today. Mongoose is something you might use with a database. Bcrypt and JSON Web Token is something you might use for authentication, having users sign up, log in, encrypting their password, that kind of stuff. We use Axios for sending external API requests. We already did that, but there's a lot more you can do with it, obviously. But yeah, and one last thing, code snippets. So if you want to take a look at the code from today's lesson, it's also in the Notion, but alternatively, you can open it up here at this paste bin. Yeah. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for hopefully you guys learned something. Thank you guys for watching. And yeah.